Welcome back. Let's continue our conversation in somewhat weather and climate related hazards and disasters. Let's talk about wildfires. There is a connection to geology. We will get to that. So let's first talk about an anatomy of a wildfire. What is it? How is it made up? Are there different parts to it, etc. So before humans, wildfires would burn until they ran out of fuel. Naturally, fuel is stuff that burns: trees, logs, leaves, whatever. So in fact, it was natural cause wildfires that actually allowed humans to harness fires for the very first time for their uses. It helped populations spread across continents, not only by burning out areas that now make it passable to go through, but also because of fires, now you can cook, now you can harness the proteins in meat as you cook it, a number of different things you can see at night, etc., etc., etc. There are some benefits to wildfires. We'll touch on that kind of in the last section. But in general, it does initiate plant regrowth when the whole cycle kind of restarts. And, once things burn down, then new things take place. Wildfires themselves, they don't all function the same. They don't all burn the same. They don't all kind of burn the same areas. Sometimes wildfires burn very low in the brush on the ground. Sometimes they only burn up very high up in the tree canopies. So here you can see a small little ground fire, brush fire. You can see for the most part, it looks like the trees aren't really burning. It's just mostly this stuff on the ground. That might be the case because this stuff on the ground is very dry. Maybe it's very windy. The fire is moving very fast, so it doesn't have time to kind of reach up into the trees. So it can kind of burn on the ground. It can burn the ground and the trees, or solely just kind of up in the trees. So not all fires are the same. When a fire does occur, it usually spreads out in kind of a V shape. So where this fire, it looks like has started, would be down here, known as the heel. And then when a fire spreads, typically it spreads out in a V-shaped pattern. So if you're looking for where the fire originated, typically you look for that V shape, and then it's at that point of the V. So the left side of the fire is called the left flank, the right side, the right flank. There are another term that you might hear is something in lecture, in the assignment, in the lab, is something called the black. The black indicates an area that has already been burnt, which is a relatively safe spot because it's already burned, so it can't burn again. The fire's moving away. So being in the black means you're in the area of the fire that's already been burnt out. So the head of the fire is usually driven by the wind, is a good pusher of fires, but also topography and a number of other things. That'd be the head of the fire. But in any case, yeah, you're looking for that V, and at the point of that V, that's where the fire started. So if you're researching these, if you're a firefighter and you're researching the cause of this, you go kind of take a look at a satellite image, find that V, go back to that spot, see if there's any human causes that may have started the fire, or if there was something natural. Essentially, wildfires are a way to remove vegetation. It reverses the process of photosynthesis. Just a little bit biology. Remember, photosynthesis is the process by where plants take energy from the sun, carbon dioxide in from the atmosphere. They take in water and they take in nutrients for them to grow, and they give off oxygen, etc. Well, wildfires kind of reverse that process. Instead of plants taking in energy, wildfires give off energy, heat. Instead of taking in carbon dioxide like plants do, when wildfires burn the plants, it releases that carbon dioxide back out into the atmosphere. And instead of taking water in, like plants do, it actually causes water vapor to be released. Water vapor and carbon dioxide are the most abundant gases released in fires. So again, energy in, carbon dioxide in, water in, oxygen out. That's how photosynthesis works. Again, the wildfire is the exact opposite of that. Energy is leaving, carbon dioxide's leaving, water is leaving, but oxygen is being sucked in. In order for a fire to burn, a flame to burn, it needs oxygen. It needs oxygen to burn. No oxygen, no flame. That's why if you have ever had a candle, like especially in a jar. In fact, you know what? I have one somewhere. Hold up. Now that I think about it, all right. If you have a candle in a jar and it's burning and you want to put it out, well, you can blow it out. But you can also, if you just put like the cap on it, it eventually extinguishes itself. This fire needs oxygen to burn, and if you're closing off that cap, it will burn up all the oxygen in the jar, and then once all the oxygen is gone and used up, the flame goes out. So in any case, that's, again, fire is the reverse of photosynthesis. One hazard from wildfires, besides the burning part, is smoke. But it's also a good indicator of the wildfire and what it's doing itself. We'll talk about the hazards of wildfire smoke again a little later. But the color of smoke can actually depict the type of fuel, so what's being burned, because the smoke is the byproduct of the fuels the fire is burning. Different substances burn differently. So the color of the smoke indicates the type and density of the fuels involved, which gives a hint as to what the fire might be doing next. If you're sitting there and all of a sudden you see smoke coming from the mountains, based on the color of the smoke, you can figure out, all right, well, what's being burned and what might happen next. So white smoke, fire is just starting to consume materials. So typically when you're seeing white smoke coming from a wildfire, it's just getting started. All right, so if you see white smoke coming from a mountain or a forest, oh, there's a wildfire, it's just getting started. It indicates light, very flashy fuels, kind of burning real quickly, grass, twigs, leaves, small stuff. So again, the fire is just getting started. Black smoke indicates that man-made material is being burned, structures, vehicles, etc. There's a lot of harmful chemicals in that kind of smoke, but you can see black smoke. Oh, that something typically man-made is being burned. Natural stuff doesn't usually burn like that. And the darker the smoke, the more volatile the fire is, the more dangerous. And gray smoke indicates the fire is slowing down and running out of material to burn. So if this is a wildfire out in the middle of nowhere, you might see it go from white to gray over time, or white to black or white to gray to black, or in any number of fashion if that fire is moving into a populated area where there are structures. So again, fire's just getting started, kind of more of a white smoke, black smoke, man-made structures are being burnt. In this case, it looks like some RVs and boats, maybe a house back here as well. And then gray smoke, it's starting to kind of die off and extinguish itself. Before we go, let me give you the first part of the super secret code. It is the number 8. You got me? The number 8. One more time, the number 8. So in any case, smoke is an indicator of wildfires. So what we'll do, we'll pause here. When we come back, we'll talk about, in what sort of environment, what sort of factors could aid in creating wildfires. We just kind of touched on some of the very basics, stuff burning essentially. But what are the environmental factors that go in to shape the behavior of a wildfire and the beginnings of a wildfire? That's what we'll talk about in just a second. See you then.